Welcome to Rooted and Ready, where Annie's Project brings you real conversations about risk, resilience, and the decisions shaping agriculture. I'm your host, Karisha Devlin. I'm a farmer and training and curriculum officer with Annie's Project. Today's guest is Somula Schwoeppe, a fourth generation dairy farmer from southern Indiana whose leadership journey spans production agriculture, sustainability, food access, and strategic partnerships. As Director of Business Partnerships at Fresh Connect Central and a former senior account manager with Feeding America, Somula has spent her career connecting people, organizations, and resources to strengthen agriculture and communities. As we continue celebrating the International Year of the Woman Farmer, Somula's story reminds us that women's leadership in agriculture takes many forms, from managing farms and businesses to building partnerships, creating opportunities, and shaping the future of our food system. Welcome, Somula.
Thank you, Karisha.
I've been really looking forward to our conversation because I think you're one of those individuals who has so much to share. You've had so many life experiences, and every conversation we have, when I come away from it, I feel energized. So you're definitely one of those people that can inject energy into anybody that listens to you talk because you can feel the passion that you have for agriculture.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. When you say passion for agriculture, gosh, and we're talking about like starting with our roots, I have to say, I grew up on a dairy farm, and so I've been involved in the dairy industry my entire life. And very early on in my life, my parents were foster parents, and we had, oh my goodness, we had so many kids come live with us because my parents would offer respite visits for other foster parents.
Mhm.
So not only did we have placements with our family who were, short term, long term, we would also have kids who would come like for just a weekend or maybe a week. So I guess I grew up in the dairy industry and grew up in a very fluid way. And I always think that's funny. Think fluid milk, right? And so things can change at the drop of a hat. And typically I'm pretty good with that because I would come home from school and get off the bus, and we may have like three new people living with us that night. You just never knew.
Mhm.
But I think what really grounds me in the work where I'm at now, and I think perhaps like the mission of my entire life is we had one young man come live with us, and he was about 8 years old. And when he came to stay with us at first, he was this little guy. He just looked like a little old man. He had gray hair, and his skin was all like flaky, like flaking off because
Mm.
he was severely malnourished. And we know when we talk about resilience and experiences in our lives, so many things happen to us that we have absolutely no control over.
Mhm.
And children for sure do not have control over what happens, and they don't get to make choices. They just
Mhm.
have to deal with those. But he came to live with us, and even his eyes were like a very dull color. And after he had lived with us for about a month, and that's one thing on a dairy farm, your day is very scheduled. You know when everyone's getting up, you know when everyone is eating or being fed, and you know when the
Mhm.
cows are being milked. And so he had a very, we'll just say, a very managed feeding program.
Mhm.
And after about a month of just like really good nutrition, we learned that he was a little redheaded, freckled faced
Oh.
boy, and with bright green eyes.
Mhm.
Um, and I think about that, and it like now as a mom and in midlife, it just breaks my heart. And like I have not had contact with him in, over 30 years. But just the resilience of children and just humanity is mind blowing. And when you see the change that can happen with people whenever whenever nurturing becomes a big part
Hmm.
of the relationship. So I'll say that is what powers me or like inspires me in the work I do today. I have an amazing job off the farm. My sons are full-grown adults, right? They're 30 and 31 years old, and they own and operate the dairy now. And I work off of the farm and a role as an agriculturist. And my heart is always going to be grounded in the work in the dairy community. And I'm still very involved in the dairy community. But the work I do now with food banks and supporting community nutrition across the country, like in my mind, every time I bring partners to the table, I'm thinking about we're going to work together to feed kids
Hmm.
like those that grew up with. And that's what grounds me in the mission of making sure that we impact our communities with the just amazing nutrition that we raise on farms here in the United States. It is
That's
truly life-changing what we do for people with the food that we grow on our farms.
It really is, and that's a very powerful story that you shared. And kudos to your parents and the rest of the family for opening your home and your hearts to those children that were in need. When you were younger, did you see yourself pursuing leadership roles beyond the farm, or did that evolve over time?
hmm Oh my gosh. When I was younger, I think the first careers that we always think we're going to be in are the careers that we're exposed to, right? As
Hmm.
kids. That's why it's so important that we get kids off the farm and see all these other things. And
Right.
also, it's very important that the kids are grounded in like the love of agriculture, so they remain on the farm, right?
Hmm.
Both of those things are important. But thinking about that when I was younger, my first career path, what I thought I was going to do was be a veterinarian. And I was very focused on that. And then as I got a little older, I thought, oh, yeah, I want to be a teacher. And I have done that, as that has been one of the roles that I have served in my life.
Hmm.
But I think we get these ideas, we get this kind of bowling alley vision of our goal, right? It's setting out there in front of us that bright shining goal, and we think we have a straight road or a straight path or a straight alley to achieve that goal and get where we think we're going in life, when actually a lot of different things happen.
Hmm.
Um, and we start to build our own resiliency. And as life brings unexpected things our way, I think challenges um, that we're faced with often bring us unknown opportunities, and we learn from them. And then instead of that straight path, we end up in a labyrinth or a maze.
Hmm.
And sometimes we get to an end that's blocked, and we have to turn around and come back and swallow our pride a little bit and dust off, and then take off and go to the next space. But I think, like, for me to say, did I plan on having leadership roles? No, I did not plan on having leadership roles in agriculture as a young person. And every leadership role I have been blessed with has come from someone asking me to serve. It's been in a way that someone will suggest me or nominate me or connect me or just flat out ask me, will you do this? Um, there has never been a single role where I just set out to like I'm like that's a goal I'm gonna crush.
Hmm.
It's it's because of the people in my life, um, and strong relationships and just the wonderful people. And that's why I think in the agriculture community, the people that we work with are just it's such a special group of people, and we are so connected in what we do and with understanding of one another. Yeah.
I like how you frame that as far as like it's not a straight path. there's a lot of curves. It could be a little bit of a labyrinth, and that's okay. I think sometimes we get fixated on like this is what we're going to do and we're going to do this forever. And life happens and there's growth. There may be opportunities that pop up, and it is important to be okay and to know that sometimes you are taking that detour and there's a reason for it, or sometimes you circle back to the path that you were on. But I think at least I'll speak for myself, that for a long time I struggled with that when, I guess being type A, when things don't go necessarily to plan. But the older I got, the more I've been embracing that's okay. And that makes for a truly lived life.
Yes. Yes. And we can appreciate it so
Mhm.
much. Like there's no, what do they say? There's no free rides. There's no free rides anywhere. But some of the lessons in life are very expensive. We have to pay for those lessons sometimes.
Yes.
And they're hard won. They are extremely educational.
Hmm.
And wow, when we get to that next phase, when we can like turn that page to the next part of our story, the the just incredible holistic appreciation for surviving those things and moving on to the next is definitely something to celebrate.
Yes, it is. Looking back, you talked earlier about those people in your life that reached out to you or encouraged you, or maybe opportunities came about from those individuals. Can you speak to who they were, who influenced your leadership journey?
Okay, so the first person who really inspired me and gave me an opportunity to do something different was our field representative, and that was Mr. Roger Boozy. And I have so much appreciation for him. I had been working with the PTO to get milk machines for our high school. And and Carisha, as someone who is on a school board, you know that when you say that, it sounds really simple, but there's a lot of people involved in that that have
Hmm.
to be okay with that,
Yes.
including Coca-Cola, apparently. Um, so this was, gosh, this was like 25 years ago. And I just decided that we were going to have a milk vending machine in our high school and set out to make that happen. And there were so many unexpected challenges, and I learned so much through that process and worked with Roger on a lot of the things. And he's like, we need someone on the dairy checkoff board. He's like, would you consider doing it? And I said, well, tell me more about it. And he's like, well, what you've been doing, like, that's a lot of it is just like getting involved with people and inspiring them to love dairy. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I could for sure do that. So that was my first, I guess that was my first bigger step like into a leadership role was to represent our dairy co-op on our state checkoff board. And then around the same time, I got asked to be our district person for the Indiana State Holstein Association. And it was always people like, "Hey, you're doing this. You're bringing people together, and you're helping to change people's minds.
Hmm.
Like, how would you like to go and do it here? Or how about you join us here and bring that skill set with you here?" And it just everything it's kind of like once the snowball gets rolling, um, things just keep getting picked up along the way.
So, as that snowball has rolled and you've gotten busier across agriculture, nonprofits, and food access organizations, what skills have been important to you as you've worked
Mm.
with those different groups?
So I think communication is so important. Um, Understanding that when we talk to people, being authentic and just being who you are.
Hmm.
Um, That is that is just incredibly important to always bring your full self. And sometimes that's hard for people, both in the giving and the receiving, right? And when you think about communication, um, I always I always think about how much our body language speaks, even when
Hmm.
our voice doesn't. And now in this time of electronic communication, it's really difficult, right? We have text messaging, which we internalize and give it all kinds of meaning when really it's just words
Hmm.
in a text that have they have no accent, they have no influence. They are just words. But when we internalize the message, we create our own we get very creative, right? The human mind is so creative. So we create this narrative that may or may not be true. And it's wherever we're at on that day and how we're feeling. But I think communication is number one. You have to be able to explain what you're thinking about, and then also, you have to be able to listen. Like listening is it's we all say, be an active listener. Well, that means really paying attention to the person that you are talking to and not just waiting for them to be quiet so you can speak.
Hmm.
Like understanding and really wanting to build that bridge and understand their wants, needs, desires, and what's inspiring them, and how you can align those, or how you can align a whole group of people. So communication for sure, but listening, really listening to people and wanting to understand people for who and what and where they are, and um, identifying with them the best way to serve whatever group you're involved in.
That's great advice, I think, for all of us, because whether it's texting or even email, as you said, you you don't know what somebody really meant by saying that. So it's just, yeah, we all get into, I think, the bad habit of maybe reading something into those messages that was not there. So, and you're spot on with the being a good listener. I think that is. I worry about our younger folks, particularly when I think about my own kids who, instead of calling and talking on the phone with their friends like you and I did when we were younger, they text. They just text
Yes,
their friends back and forth. And so I don't, I think that being able to carry on a conversation and, as you said, being an active listener, that is something that is being lost a little bit. And I think really important, not just for our young people, for everybody, but
absolutely. It is so important, and it's that's a thing as we look at like communicating across generations or working across generations. It's so very different. And I remember when I was substitute teaching and kids started using the tablets, and
Mhm.
I had a group at a table and they were sitting with their tablets. And I said, "You guys need to get up and play." It was very nasty outside, so we were having indoor recess. I said, "You guys need to get up and play together." I said, "How about a game?" I said, "If you guys want to play, I'll sit down with you and we can play a game together." And they said, "Miss S, we are playing together. We just gave Brian all of our apples." And I thought, oh wow, this is so, and my brain just kind of did a little like flip over, right? Because I thought, okay, this is so different, right? Than how
Mhm.
we played and how we communicated. And I thought, okay, well, they're sharing. So that's, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, land on that they are sharing. Um,
Found the positive there.
yes, yes. But I think about empathy, and that's so important. And that goes back to like listening and understanding, right? And I think Maya Angelou, she said, what is it? People forget what you say and they'll forget what you do, but people will never forget how you make them feel.
Yes.
And and that's where that body language comes in. You smile at someone or you frown at someone, or like when you're speaking, your face can tell the truth of your meaning or your
Hmm.
intent.
Yeah.
And whenever you are working in groups, even if unintentionally you hurt someone with a poorly placed word or a facial expression or something, or just the timing of your delivery, um, it's it's very difficult. And I forgot what the thing, how many positive interactions you have to have after a negative one, but
Mm,
it is so exponential. You have to just be kind, right? Like always ground yourself in kindness and assume positive intent when going into trying to build a relationship,
mhm,
because doing those two things will help you so much, because you are going to have to work 100 times harder if you aren't nice. Like, and some days we just don't feel it. Like
mhm.
some days it's like, okay, I am not going to be pleasant. I need to like figure out. I'm tired. It's been a long week. I've been traveling a lot of whatever. It's like hot. Um, no one is a lot of fun after you have like, a June day that it's 95 degrees with 90% humidity, and oh, and that's the day straw's ready, right?
Mhm,
At
mhm.
the end of that day, everybody just needs to eat watermelon, drink a lot of water, and just go home and sleep. Like,
Yes.
no deep discussions after that.
Right. Earlier in our conversation, we kind of talked a little bit about getting off of that straight road, some taking some detours, making some changes. What advice would you give to, and I'm going to say women in particular, but it could be women and men, who feel that it's too late to pursue a new opportunity, degree, or leadership role? I know you are similar to myself. I think we both went back to school at a later age to pursue a degree, and that kind of led us into some different opportunities. But it's not necessarily even just a degree. Maybe it's a different career path, or as you said, just opening yourself up to taking on leadership roles in whatever way that might be. But what advice would you give our listeners?
Oh, I first thing I would say, commit yourself to being a lifelong learner.
Hmm.
Um, Always approach life with a learning mindset, because there is so much out there to learn about. But when we talk about like people who influenced us, or like what it means to not be too late to change things in life, I will say, thinking about myself as a lifelong learner, the greatest teacher of my life has been my oldest son, Wyatt. He taught me to be a mom and what it means to be a parent. And I always say kids are the most, like, they're the most of anything in your life. You receive the most joy, the most love. Um, you are most happy whenever your children are successful and healthy. And then also, you experience the most sadness, the most frustration. You need the most patience. Like kids are just the most. And I don't think it matters what age they are, um, because I am as thrilled to see him at 31 being successful at life as I was at 4 seeing him in his first preschool play, right? But through all that, and I say, he gave me some of the very best advice. I asked him when his younger brother got finished with college, I said, would you like to go get a business degree? Like that would serve you really well, managing a farm, having a business degree. And he said, Mom, and back to this generational thing and how we learn and what we do. He says, I can learn everything from a business degree online. Like I don't need to go to school. Is anything I want to learn, I can look up. It's there. Like everything is at your fingertips. He said, but if you feel like someone needs a piece of paper to say how smart they are, maybe you should go back and get yours. And I thought, wow, here's my adult son telling me, go try something different.
Hmm.
Like, get out there and do it. And I thought, hmm, okay, that's all right. So that, and I had always had the feeling of not being finished. right? Like I wanted to accomplish that degree. So yeah, I went back to school at like 45 years old, thinking I was going to finish one degree and had such incredible, again, people offering you opportunities that you didn't know were there, but and just making things possible, clearing the path, right?
Mhm.
I had great counselors and professors, so I ended up with multiple degrees. And it was one of the most incredible experiences in my life. And I did that in a 2-year period, which I'm going to say um, that's a commitment. And, and it was definitely pedal to the metal through the whole thing. But I decided, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to make it happen. And yeah, it was great. And I don't think I would have done it had I not been inspired by my son. Even though maybe he didn't feel like he was being inspired in the moment, I sure as heck was inspired by
Mhm.
what he had to say. So, yeah,
I love that. I hope that our listeners also take that to heart and whatever they want to do, um, or just our conversation. I hope it inspires them to go forth and proceed. As you said, you're never done learning. In fact, I think there has actually been studies that once adults or elderly adults, once they just completely, a lot of times when they retire or if they're not doing something to really engage their mind, that's when they start having serious health issues.
yeah,
That's when, so I think it is important to always be looking for ways to challenge ourselves mentally, be willing to try new things and not think that you get to a certain age and life stops.
absolutely.
So we're both very involved in Annie's Project. You are actually the president of the Annie's Project Board of Directors. And I wanted to kind of switch into talking about Annie's Project and women in
Hmm.
agriculture in particular. But you started your journey with Annie's Project as going through the original Annie's Project 6-week course that we call Annie's Project 101. And you described that as a life-changing opportunity. So could you share a little bit about what impact that participation had on you, both personally and professionally?
Oh, absolutely. So, number one, I received the information about Annie's project in the monthly newsletter from our extension office. And I thought, wow, this sounds pretty cool. Like, classes once a week, and I'm going to be there with other women. Like, I'm going to see if I can't get a couple of my friends interested in doing this. And we go spend some time together and learn and have some fun. Because at the time, like you would have a quick like meal, and then you would have like the planned learning session. And it was just a really good time to get together with people. And I was thinking, I don't really know what I'm gonna learn from this, but I think I will come out of it at the other end knowing something I didn't know, and we'll see where it goes from there, right? So I was very open to the experience, and I talked to a few of my friends. So I talked 4 other women I know into taking it with me, and it was incredible because at the time, I didn't know a lot of women in this area in agriculture and leadership roles. So, number one, with Annie's and the methodology of learning, you learn from experts in the field. So, I go into the class and I see these women out doing all these fabulous things and really being experts at what they do. And
Mm-hmm.
that was so inspiring. And then learning more so about the business aspects of the farm, because when I took the classes, it was just when I was starting to move into like some more of the management side and understanding like vendor relationships, insurance, what risk management is available, grain marketing. Um, I quickly learned there were a couple places where I was severely being taken advantage of.
Hmm.
And I thought, hmm, well, isn't this interesting? Now I know about this, and I learned just enough about the basics to really understand what I did not know that I needed to know.
Hmm.
And that made a huge difference for me and my family, I'll say, and just really helped us build a stronger foundation business-wise. Um, and I will never forget that because it was definitely life-changing in seeing these strong women out here making it happen and just owning their role
Hmm.
and really being able to help other people. And also, like, all right, I'm going to be much better at business after taking these classes, right?
Why do you think having programs designed specifically for women in agriculture remain so important today?
Well, there are so many studies that have been done about the importance of mentoring and peer relationships, and also just like when women are in a space of just women, there are different conversations that are happening. It is so much easier to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I don't understand this.
Hmm.
Can you please break this down and explain it to me again?" Um, and I feel like there need to be groups where women can get together and learn from one another. And whether it's a peer mentoring or whether it's generational mentoring, the mentor and mentee relationship is so beneficial for both people learning from one another. But this also, I fully believe, like men need this space as well. And Annie's is open um, for allies and anyone who wants to receive the education and the classes. But I'm just going to say it's a very special place for women learning from one another and being able to create um, a safe space where people can just truly be vulnerable and settle in and learn.
As we recognize the International Year of the Woman Farmer, what progress have you seen with women having the space to be in leadership roles in agriculture from like the start of your career to now?
Oh, wow. So I noticed an interesting thing at a meeting I was at in April, and I was interviewed after the meeting. And I said, and they're asking me, like, you've been involved in this a while now. What are you noticing that's different today versus, 15
Hmm.
years ago? And I said, well, interestingly enough, today I had to wait in line to use the restroom. And 15 years ago, I would have had the restroom to myself.
Hmm.
And I said, so that was actually really cool, like to
That
see like
is.
all these other women in the room, right? And I thought that's a funny like call out for that. But just understanding that it's not so lonely anymore, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think as we are seeing women move into more leadership roles, we're seeing organizations evolve in different ways.
Hmm.
There's more emphasis on community, depending on what type of organization it is. But we're seeing, um, I feel like less individualism and more care and concern of the group. Now I would say that's like not always the thing, but I do feel like that is something that women always bring to the table. Um, and, it's so different in how eh, I don't see like the complicated complications of things like that we have in organizations as like definitely a man problem or definitely a woman problem because we are so uniquely gifted in the way how a woman's perspective is very different from a man's perspective. How we internalize communication is very different from how men internalize communication. Um, but that is also when you get people together that have such differences in that, and you truly can set up spaces where communication truly occurs and people talk to one another and listen to one another, you can really make great decisions, right? Because you are looking at things like from full perspective. It's like you are seeing all sides, or hopefully, like, I mean, that's the goal, and to make the best decisions that you can. So I think with all the discussion about sustainability, regenerative farming, stewardship, and things like that, we are looking at things through a very different lens now as we have more women in leadership roles, and I believe a more holistic perspective.
How can agriculture organizations, businesses, communities, individuals better support that next generation of
Mm.
women leaders?
I think that we all need enough self-awareness to understand that we're different and no one is perfect. And we have to be honest with one another and have conversations and listen to one another um, so that we can provide real input. Um, and we acknowledge everyone in the room and listen to everyone in the room.
Mhm.
Um, and creating that sense of inclusion, and then you can move forward. And I think that whenever we have created spaces like that within organizations, we're going to pull our top talent through, no matter if it's male, female, how someone is identifying. Like you're going to create the place where people can move up. And I always say, like, I like to help people find what I see as the light inside of them
Mhm.
and just to help it shine. Because everyone is blessed with gifts, but not everyone recognizes their own gifts.
Mhm.
And when you identify something as someone, like it's like a mystery, like you're treasure hunting, right? And like, hey, you are so good at this. Develop it and share it with the world. Like,
Mhm.
um, that maybe not be answering your question like spot on, but
No, I like that. And I like what you're saying about helping people recognize what their gifts are and even calling them out on it, like you're so good at this, because there's some people that maybe they haven't realized that, or maybe they do need that um, maybe extra push, that feeling of support um, to to really come into themselves and to share their gift, their skills with the world.
and I'll say like just a little addition to that is like as women, we don't always um identify that within ourselves.
Hmm.
Like we might think we're good at something, but then it's like, well, yeah, but everybody can do that. Well, no, not always. Like not always can everyone do that. And then when you get that cheerleader
Hmm.
or that external validation, which is sometimes so very important just to start something with, right? Um, when you know that someone believes in you and believes that you can accomplish it, it's very inspiring and can definitely, I feel like, help solidify someone's commitment to whatever goal that they're trying to
Hmm.
achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last question. What is one message, a piece of advice that you would leave our listeners with?
Mm. One leadership lesson that I've learned that every woman in agriculture could hear. I think don't be afraid of admitting you're wrong and owning that. I think truly be yourself, be authentic. Like, do not be afraid to be yourself because there is only one you in the world. You are an expert in you, and you own that expertise. And I said earlier that we are all blessed with gifts, and I think about the quote, to whomsoever much is given, of her, him, much will be required.
Mhm.
And you are given the gifts and the blessings that you have because you're supposed to share them, right? So own your gifts and share them with others, and don't be afraid to go out and try things. And you know, ambition is a good thing. There are a lot of people who will um, chastise you uh, for exhibiting ambition, but ambition is a wonderful thing because that's what gets us to the next place. But just think of thinking of ambition and what that means is like I've heard the term and I've written about the term selfless ambition in the way that like as you are trying to reach that next goal, someone has reached out a hand to you to help pull you along and you need to reach your other hand back and bring someone along. And hopefully like that continues and you become a chain. And I think don't be afraid to put both hands out, one to move forward and one to pull someone along with you.
Mm, that's great advice. Well, thank you, Somila, for sharing your story, your life lessons, and inspiring all of us.
Thank you
Some
very much, Karisha. This has been a great conversation. Thank you.
Somula's story reminds us that leadership in agriculture doesn't always look the same. Sometimes it's managing a farm, sometimes it's building partnerships, solving problems, opening doors for others, or strengthening communities. As we continue celebrating the International Year of the Woman Farmer, Somula's journey is a powerful example of how women are leading across every part of our agriculture system. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Rooted and Ready. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading where you're planted.